Grisly crimes from past. The green bicycle murder. The tragic death of pretty Bella Wright would have been written off as a fatal road accident if it had not been for the shrewd curiosity of a young country constable. For when 21-year-old Bella was found dead on a quiet road near the village of Stretton in Leicestershire, with her bicycle lying on the grass verge, it added a terrible weight to the complaints of the locals who cursed the reckless and speeding drivers in their peaceful little communities. The dead girl's face was deeply gouged and matted with blood. Gravel from the roadway has embedded in her face where she had pitched forward from her bicycle and struck the ground. She had obviously been run off the road by some ruthless motorist, the villager insisted. It was July 1919, and clattering motor cars were not yet a commonplace sight in the quiet countryside. Their drivers, according to the popular rural opinion, terrified the farm animals and were a mortal danger to the peaceful cyclist and rambling pedestrians. A cursory examination of Bella's body by a local doctor seemed to confirm that opinion. He concluded that something had caused Bella to lose control of her bicycle, throwing her into the road where she died of loss of blood and head injuries. The local constable, however, had some nagging doubts. He went to search the scene of the road accident for any further clues to showing exactly how Bella had met her death. As he poked around the grass verges on either side of the narrow road, the constable found the blood-splattered body of a dead carrion crow, but there were no tire marks near the bird. He turned his body over with the tip of his boot and continued his search. A few feet away, where Bella's bicycle had lain, he found another object which caught his attention. It was a spent bullet, pushed down into the soft earth by the imprint of a horse's hoof. A fresh examination of Bella's body showed the grim truth about her death. In the swollen, blood-stained tissue below her left eye was a bullet hole. Hidden in the tangled mass of her hair was an exit wound. Bella had been shot clean through the head. The police search switched from the pursuit of a hit-and-run driver to the hunt for a cold-blooded murderer. The night before Bella died, she had been on one of her frequent cycling jaunts, riding to the village postbox to send a letter to her sweetheart, a young sailor aboard a warship which was stationed 240 kilometers away in Portsmouth. The pretty brunette who lived with her parents had many male admirers, but she only flirted with them. Her deepest affection were reserved for the sailor. She hoped to soon ask her to marry him. Bella had finished a long tiring night shift as mill hand in a factory in nearby Leicester when she returned home on Saturday 5th of July and slept until late afternoon. After a quick meal, when she woke, she cycled off briskly to post her letter, telling her parents she might pay a visit to her uncle, a road worker, who lived not very far away. When Bella arrived at her uncle's cottage 2 hours later, she was not alone. As she went inside the cottage, a sallow-faced man waited outside for her, seated astride his green bicycle. Bella's uncle, George Messrs, teased her about her strange companion. She smiled. "Oh, him. I don't really know him at all. He has been riding alongside me for a few miles. But he isn't bothering me at all. He's just chatting about the weather." When Bella was ready to leave for home 1 hour later, her uncle glanced through the window and saw the man with the green bicycle was still waiting outside. "Oh, I do hope he doesn't get boring," Bella laughed coyly. "I'll soon cycle fast enough to give him the slip." The man with the green bicycle grinned happily at Bella when she left the cottage and pedaled his bicycle to join her as they rode off together in the warm summer evening's air. An hour later, a farmer driving his cattle along the peaceful Barton Overy Road found Bella's body. An inquest on the dead girls returned a verdict of murder by person or persons unknown. The vital witness, the man with the green bicycle, could not be traced. But his bicycle was found 7 months later, when a barge skipper on a canal outside Leicester found that a line trailing from his boat has sagged a piece of a junk on the canal bed. The junk brought to the surface was the frame of a green bicycle. Policemen who probed the muddy canal bottom soon uncovered a gun holster and a dozen revolver cartridge. One of the serial numbers of the bicycle frame had been hastily filed off, but another identifying number inside the saddle support led police to the local dealer for the bicycle maker, and then to identify the man who bought it 10 years before. The owner of the bicycle was railway draftsman Ronald Light, a moody shell-shock veteran of World War I with a fascination for guns. He had been invalidated out of the army and had lived in Leicester until 6 months after Bella's murder. When police traced 34-year-old Light, he had left his home in Leicester he shared with his widowed mother and taken a job about 100 kilometers away as a school teacher in Cheltenham. He was arrested and brought back to Leicester to be charged with the murder of Bella Wright. His trial began at Leicester Assizes in June 1920, and from the opening speech of the prosecution, the circumstantial evidence was stacked mercilessly against Ronald Light. Witness after witness identified him as the man with the green bicycle, and a young maidservant from Light's own home told how he kept firearms and ammunition in the attic. The prosecution amply proved that Ronald Light had been the mystery man who cycled off with Bella just before her death. Light himself admitted filing the serial number of his bicycle and throwing it, with the holster and cartridges, into the canal a few weeks after the murder. The only arguably weak point in the prosecution's case was the lack of motive. Bella had not been sexually assaulted or robbed, even though Light denied killing her, claiming that they parted company at the village's crossroads. The irrefutable testimony seemed certain to lead him to the gallows. One other piece of evidence seems to cloud the case, almost irrelevantly. The bullet found by the village constable had several marks on it. The marks were caused by it passing through the dead girl's skull and the crushing effect of the steel-shored horsehoof which had grounded it into the earth. There was even one mark which might have been caused by a ricochet. When Ronald Light gave evidence in his own defense, he seemed at first to be damning himself. He admitted trailing around after Bella on his bicycle on the night of her death, pestering her for the use of a spanner and a pump because her own cycle had developed a loose wheel and a flat tire. He told the jury of his own sad and tortured mental history, how he cracked up after 3 years of savage war in the frontline trenches, and how he was classified as a shell-shock victim and sent back to England in the closing stages of the war for psychiatric treatment. But the effect of his testimony on the jury was electric. In a firm, clear voice, without a trace of hesitation or emotion, Light told the court, "I was an artillery gunner in the trenches from 1915 to 1918. When I was sent home a broken man, I kept my holster and ammunition because they were wrapped in a bag attached to my stretcher when they took me from the front. The army kept my service revolver. When Bella Wright was murdered, I knew from newspaper reports the next day that she was the girl I had been with just before she died. I knew the police wanted to question me." Staring blankly and coldly into space, Light admitted, "I became a coward again. I never told a living soul what I knew. I got rid of everything which could have connected me with her. I was afraid." The jury looked at the gaunt face of the anguished war veteran before they retired to consider the verdict. They returned 3 hours later and pronounced him not guilty. As Light walked from the court a free man, the sharp-typed constable who had turned her death into a murder investigation, blaming himself for one flaw in his inspired detective work. The body of the dead carrion crow in the field, he had kicked it aside with hardly a second glance. Had the bloodied crow also been blasted by a bullet from the same gun which killed Bella Wright? Had the same bullet ripped through the crow in flight and found a second innocent human target? Could the bullet have ricocheted from a tree and ended Bella's young life? Without the evidence of the crow and perhaps of further bullets and footprints at the scene, no one would ever know. But it was not beyond the bound of possibility that an amateur marksman had been taking pot shots at the sinister black shapes of the carrion crows in the field beside the country road. Was there somewhere a thoughtless gunman who knew his wild shooting had killed an unsuspecting girl and who had fled from the scene to keep his terrified secret? A gunman infinitely more cowardly than the shell-shock broken ex-soldier Ronald Light. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and leave a comment as it helps with YouTube algorithm to grow this channel. I regularly upload, so by subscribing, you will be notified of new materials. You will find similar contents in my other videos. Have a safe day. Signing off.